2 years ago, and I updated it for this year. And I realized there may be a couple things that are slightly different due to COVID, but we have to be understanding about it. And the first thing is most important. Don't procrastinate. Now, you may not make a decision till spring. That's okay. But if you are looking at a November 1st deadline because you're applying for X or Y scholarship, you can't ask a teacher for a rec the week before. It's not going to happen. Now, I will have kids on occasion who have already asked for a rec. I've written one who say, Mr. Rich, I literally just found out about this. The deadline's in 3 days. I've already written one for you. I can modify it fairly easily for another one. That's I understand, because sometimes you will literally find out. My mom just said at her work they announced a scholarship thing, but the application's due in 3 days. Yeah, in those rare circumstances, I can hook you up. And most teachers, I think, understand that. This is going to stress you out. There are times when this is going to be hard. I can usually tell when my seniors have made their college decisions before you tell me, because sometimes y'all get a little squirrely, you get a little slightly nasty, you get a little kind of, and I don't take offense because I understand. And then when you make your decision, you start being like nice again and polite, and you sleep more, and it's just a weight off your shoulders. And sometimes I'll go up to kids and say, did you decide what college you're going to? How do you know? Because I see your body language, I see your attitude, and I see what happens to it when some of this gets really down on you, and then I see when it goes away. So understand it's going to be tough, but you're smart, you're capable, and the worst thing that happens is you go to an institution, it's not the right fit, and you transfer. This is not a lifetime commitment, and I know many people have done that. A couple years ago, one of my favorite kids went down to the University of Mississippi, and he was there like 3 weeks and went, Mr. Rich, when I visited on a weekend, everybody was partying. That was okay, it was a weekend. But I'm here also to get a degree. And he said, what I didn't realize, because I didn't visit during the week, is everybody partied every night of the week too. And he said, I love a party, I love socializing. And he was very outgoing, but he said, I can't study in my dorm because people are going nuts on a Tuesday. So he's like, I can't be here. And he started looking at transferring in October of his first year. And he found another school, had a great experience, and now he's very happy, and he's a senior this year getting ready to graduate. So that stuff happens. If that's the worst thing that happens to you, it's still going to be okay. It's still going to be okay. The second point, what are you looking for, and how do you know? Do not get caught up on a name. I've had students say, I've got to go Ivy League. Cool, why? And they're like, they're the best schools. How do you know? What research have you done to corroborate that? It's like when people say America is the greatest country in the world. That's fine if you believe that. My first question is, what is your reasoning for that? Which is usually some version of, we have freedom. No one else has freedom? What statistical measure do you have to believe America is the greatest country in the world? And of course they don't have it, because that's not why they feel that way. And that's okay. But you need to try, this is important. The greatest investment you are going to make in your entire life is in yourself. I am who I am today because of how I was raised in my family and school influences as a child, and because of Center College. I became an adult in college. Most of my best friends are people I met in college, and I would have met other people if I went to another place, but it wouldn't have been those people. Like I have been in 5 weddings. All 5 of them are fraternity brothers of mine. Okay, so if I go first, when I get laid in the ground, those are the dudes along with any of my family who will put me there. And there's no doubt about that. So it's made me who I am. But I was able, with the support of my parents, to process and think and ask questions and try to figure out what's important to me. Size of school, distance from home, money, obviously, academic programs. And really, the answer is, the question is yours. Some families get more involved than others. In my experience, most of the families of students I have want you to be happy and want you to be financially responsible. Okay? We'll talk about budget in a minute, but that's an important process. You need to ask the budget question sooner than later. It hurts me so to have kids get excited about a place and then they find out what the cost is and it's just not something they can handle. And that's one of the first questions you need to ask, because it really sucks to get your hopes up and then they get dashed 3 months later because you just avoided it. Because you and I both know if you avoid talking about money, it's still going to be there. So you might as well try to figure it out. And the sooner you can do that, that helps you figure out. If I wanted to go test drive a Porsche, okay, they'll let me test drive it. I can't afford a Porsche. I'm a high school teacher. Now, some would say it'd still be cool to drive it, but for me, I'd say I don't want to test drive a car I can't afford. That's just me. You might have a different impression, and that's okay, but you need to figure it out. And if your answer is, I don't know, then you need to figure it out. So as it says there in number 2, don't be focused on everyone else's opinions. You know, I'm happy to give advice. I will never tell you where to go. I've had kids come in before on the verge of tears and say, Mr. Rich, I've got 2 or 3 schools. Can we talk about this? Yeah, sure. And they want me to tell them where to go. I'm not doing it. It's not my call. 95% of the time, in my experience, you've already made up your mind. You just need someone to help you figure that out. And I can ask some questions and help you. But at the end of the day, it's your choice. And you have to be the one to make it. And sometimes we're scared of choice because what if I mess up? Like I said, you transfer. It happens. It's all good. It's all good. All right. Number 3. This is so important, and I see less of this than I used to when I started teaching, but I still see it on occasion. Go to a school because you like it. I'm going to go play sports, and that's the only reason I'm going. And then you tear your ACL, and you're never quite good enough again, and you can't play that sport anymore, and you're stuck at a school that you only had one thing for, and it's no longer available for you. Or the worst, you go because of another human. You're dating someone. I'm going to go with them. That doesn't last. If it's meant to be, it'll work out. Whether you're in the same institution or not. It will. But I see people do that. Not as much anymore, but you still see that. Statistics say you will change your major. When I went to Center College, first meeting of pre-med, did the whole look to your left, look to your right. And Center is a place at that time about 1,000 students. Today it's 1,400. There were about 275 of us in the freshman class. And there were about 200 of us at that meeting. And the advisor of the pre-med said, look to your left, look to your right. 2 of you won't be here in 3 years. And of course, all of us were like, no, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm smart. I'm always going to be. And then in 3 years, 2/3 of us weren't in there. And then less of us even went through the process farther, including me. Okay. And that's good. I made choices and gathered more information that were better for me. But I'm not trying to be mean when I say stuff like that. It's just life comes at you. You get exposed to more knowledge. You change your mind. That is a sign of good that you can change your mind. Don't be afraid that changing your mind is weakness. Now, when I sat down with my parents, who for 15 years, I'd told them I was going to be a medical doctor and I was going to be the first in my family, and everybody was kind of excited about that. Was that the most fun conversation I've ever had to have? No. Were they slightly upset? They didn't say it, but you could tell. I could see on their face they're disappointed. Now today, they're happy and they're excited because they know that I'm doing what I was born to do. And I believe that till the day I die. This is the job I was meant to have. You can agree or disagree with that. That's your choice, but I know that. No doubt in my mind. And all I would want for you is that through a process of elimination, you can find the same thing for you. Because 99% of the time, unless there are technical problems that could have been avoided by student choice, 4th period, I am happy at school. And I'm doing what makes me happy. Period. Okay? So, and someday when I marry that sugar mama, I'm going to get all the money I can handle. But until then, I've got enough. Okay? So I'm good with that. Totally am. Don't go to the school because you like the basketball team and you just want to go to the games. You can still be a fan from afar. I've had kids say like, I'm just going to UK because I'm a big UK basketball fan and I want to go stand in the eruption zone. Cool, but like, seriously? You won't find a bigger sports fan. I love sports. But that should not be the driving reason for why you're going to school as a fan. Now, if you're an athlete and a player, then yeah, go where it's best for you. It's part of the process. Number 4, scholarships are out there. I'm sure you guys know about the big ones. What I've learned over the years is there are so many little ones. There are scholarships for things, and these are real examples I know of, for being left-handed. There are scholarships. A young woman who worked for me at Governor Scholars years ago was 6 feet tall. Pretty tall for a young woman. She got a $5,000 a year scholarship from a tall woman who made it rich, who liked to give scholarships to other tall girls. So literally, you had to be 5'10" or taller, and she got like $5,000 a year for 4 years in college because she was tall. That was it. So that stuff is out there. Depending on where your parents or family members may work, many of them have scholarships. And they give preference to children of people that work at that particular institution. A lot of businesses in our community will have scholarships. When I was a senior in high school, I did Super America Like the gas station had one, which I don't think even exists anymore. The Walmart 10 minutes from where I lived had one. Kroger had one. I paid for an entire year of books and incidentals. Like I bought a new computer when I went to college, even though it was giant back then because I'm old. But I bought a computer and a year's worth of books, which is probably $2,500 off like $250 scholarships. And I wrote one essay and I turned it in every time, or I had one speech and I'd go. And we laughed because there was like 10 of us that would go to every competition, and it'd be the same 10 kids from like PRP where I went, Western, Butler, all the schools in the South End, and we'd all see each other because we were all the same 10 kids on that hustle. And I paid for a year's worth of stuff out of those little things alone. So don't turn your nose up at scholarships. There's a lot of opportunities. All right. Number 5, budget. The best thing my parents ever did for me, and I believe this till the day I die. My mom and dad sat me down as a freshman in high school and said, here is what we have done for you. And they told me what they had saved to that point. And they said, if we keep our jobs and if the economy is good, all those things, which, happens if you have investments or you have a savings account, the rates change. They said, if all things continue, we expect to have about this much money for you for college. And I knew what they would do. And they said, if you want to go to a school that is more expensive than this, that is your choice. We will co-sign a loan with you, because who's going to give money to an 18-year-old with no credit? But they said, you are paying it back. We are not paying college loans for you above this amount. And I knew that. So when I got my letter from Center College on December the 12th, 1996, yes, I remember the day, and it said the dollar amount, I knew I was good. I knew I was good. And I did a lap in my neighborhood, like high-fiving old people on the front porch and stuff. Yeah. Because I knew that figure. And I know this is a shock, but preparation helps you. So the more you can prepare, the more you can know. And I realize it's difficult to initiate a conversation with the adults in your life if they have not initiated it with you. And the answer may not be much, but then and then you get on that hustle and you start figuring it out. Do I need to work full time to pay my way through school? These are things that you can figure out. There's lots of opportunities. At U of L, you can do Metroversity, work for UPS, and they will pay for your school by the time you get out. That's a great option. It depends on how much money is available to you, how many scholarships you can get. There are federal grants. That's why you have to fill out the FAFSA, F-A-F-S-A. Do we all know what that is? If you don't know what that is, you need to find out. F-A-F-S-A. It's your federal student loan information. And you put in your family's financial information. You're going to need like tax returns and whatnot. And it spits out a number. You are expected to be able to pay X amount of dollars for school. And above that, you can get federal work study money where you get a job in college and it helps pay for your tuition. Those kind of things. You can get grants. Some of those grants are loans. Some of them are, you don't have to pay them back. If you qualify for certain conditions, here's like a free $3,000. $3,000 is $3,000. So there's a lot available out there if you will hustle and work on it. Okay? The sooner, the better. Again, it breaks my heart to see kids come back from a visit and say, Mr. Rich, I love so-and-so school. And like 3 months later, I say, hey, what's going on with you? And they go, well, my favorite's this, but just last week we did the numbers and I can't afford it. Like, why are you waiting 3 months to do the numbers? Like, figure it out, because it sucks to have hope and then have it taken away. You understand if it's like, oh, we just, So I would encourage you to have that discussion with your family as soon as you can. And then you got to start doing the math on what are you willing to put out. Again, I would argue the best investment you'll ever make in your entire life, more important than any car, any house, anything, is investing in yourself, because that will return a greater return than any stock, any home, any car you would ever buy. Okay? Again, I am who I am because of my educational experiences, period. And my family and the way I was raised and all that good stuff. But Center College made me who I am. And I tend to think that's good. Others may disagree, and that's fine, but I tend to think that's good. Okay? Number 6, and I know this is somewhat difficult because of COVID, but things are starting to open up again. Take college visits if you can. If you want to do like, this is one of those like spring break, we're going to go visit a couple places, that kind of thing, or fall break, whatever, that's fine. You can also do virtual visits. They're not the same, but again, with COVID, this might be one of those other things. If you aren't able to visit certain places, I still think it's good practice for you to visit a school in Louisville. Even if you want to get the heck out of this town, that's fine. But Bellarmine will give you a tour. U of L will get you a tour. Spalding will give you, it doesn't cost you a thing. Use it as practice, because most tours, it's not just a tour. If you want a scholarship, you want to build a relationship with a admissions counselor. This is the number one thing I talk to kids at GSP about, and they look at me like I have 7 heads, because it's your generation. It's not your fault. I'm old. I like to sit in a room with people and talk to them. Or on a situation like this. The reason I got the scholarship to center I did is because of my high school guidance counselor, who I was very close to and helped me immensely, and my admissions counselor at center. She went to bat for me. Every time there was a meeting, she brought up my name. I know because she'd email me the next day. Brian, we had a meeting yesterday. We're talking about who gets this or that scholarship. I was really pushing for you. And I know she was. And she's still there. And I'm at center during the summer now. And we go have lunch a couple times during that. We're friends. She changed my life. And that would have not happened if I had not made the effort to get to know her and make sure she knew me. Most of you guys want to disappear. Interpersonal communication is sometimes difficult for your generation because we'd rather be doing this. You need to develop a relationship. You need an admissions counselor to know your name. You need an admissions counselor to like you and want you at that school. Because even if you're the best candidate, you're not in that room when decisions are being made. You need an advocate in that room when decisions are being made. So my favorite question of when y'all like miss class or on a weekend, you're like, Mr. Rich, I'm going to so-and-so school. Cool, have a great time. When you come back, who knows your name on that campus? And the looks I get, well, there were 20 people on our tour. So go back to the office and say, hey, or plan ahead even better. I'm in from out of town. Before we go back home, is there a way I can meet with an admissions counselor? And your admissions counselor may be out on the road. They're gone all the time. But I bet somebody will meet with you. And if it goes well and you like them and they like you, then that's someone who knows you and can advocate for you. And that is a tremendous, tremendous advantage. Especially again, and I'm not being super critical, adults are just as bad these days. An in-person relationship is much better than the alternative. And I think we've all realized that over the last 5 months. I wish all of you were in my room right now. I think most of you would wish the same. And soon we will be, whenever that is. But there is no substitute for that interpersonal connection. One of my GSP RAs that I know very well is applying currently for a job as an admissions counselor at Western Kentucky's honors program. So I don't know what I'm one of her recommenders. So she'll find out soon. If she gets that job, yeah, you go in there. Well, there's some places you say the name Brian Rich, you might get thrown out of the building. But if you go in there, she and I, if you go to Center College, heck yeah, you should say who do you know that went to Transy? Who do you know that went to Ohio State? If you have a connection, use it. That's important. That helps. It's not necessary, but it helps. I've got a guy that I know very well who I have done things for his daughters and helped them out, who is a Harvard grad. If you are interested in applying for Harvard, he said, like, if any of your kids need help, like I can give them my information and then I can give them tips for that Ivy League interview. Because if you want to apply to Yale or Princeton or Harvard, the first step of that process after you turn in your application is an in-person interview with someone in Louisville who is a graduate of that institution. You only go up to the school when it's serious. And so he's like, yeah, I'll run your kids through it. And he was serious. So I can get you a practice Ivy League interview from a guy who does it every year. But those are things, ask. We can get you that. Practicing always helps. Interperson. I'm not that smart. There are a lot of people smarter than me. But I know a lot of people, and I do my best to make sure the vast majority of those people like me. Doesn't always work. Sometimes I'm unlikable. But that's really important. And that may not be your strength, but still try. When you get home from your college visit, write a handwritten thank you note and send it to that admissions counselor you met with. Get the name of the person that led your tour, who's probably an undergrad student, who works in the admission office, who has some influence. When people interview to work for Governor Scholars in the summer, their interview starts when they email our secretary. Because I will ask our secretary, who's really nice, who's really good. And she'll be like, oh, these 5 people. And that doesn't mean they get the job, but when they come in, I already know their name because I'm interviewing 150 people, but I know those 5 people's names, and I'm looking out, and oftentimes I'll see if what the secretary said is what I see as well. And 95% of the time it is true. If you're nice to people, that goes a long way. And those are things people don't think about. So the college kid who's 3 years older than you giving you your tour might go back and tell the admissions counselor, like, look, this kid asked good questions. They stayed behind and asked me some. That stuff all helps. Thank you notes help. Those little things help. Okay. I'm not going to go through the college fair stuff just because right now I don't know if those are happening, but these are things. Number 7, if you go visit a school, those are some questions you can ask. Okay. The worst thing that can happen when someone asks you, do you have any questions? The worst thing is in this kind of situation, no. Kiss of death. There's not one thing about U of L you don't have a question about. There's not one thing about Ohio State, which has 60,000 students and hundreds of degree programs that you don't know about. Are you arrogant or lazy? Ask questions. Prepare them in advance. Do research on the thing you're interested in. And if they say, we'd like to take you to a class, you're like, actually, I saw that Professor so-and-so is doing research that I'm kind of interested in. Is it possible I visit his or her class? Woo, that's impressive. You did research, you know. That kind of stuff really stands out. It helps. All right. So before I move on to essays, which is my bread and butter, does anybody have any questions about any of that kind of stuff?
I have a question.
Yeah, Jenna, go ahead.
So like my neighbors went to Center College, and
Awesome.
they were telling me that the most important thing, like, because my major that I'm like choosing to go with right now, I already know I'm gonna have to go to grad school. So when I was telling them about the schools that I wanted, they were telling me that it might be smarter to invest your money more in your grad school than in your undergrad degree. Like, they were telling me if I could get a lot of money to go somewhere, but it wasn't my ideal school, look into my ideal school and see if they have my graduate program, and then put my money like that I would have to use into that instead. Is that true?
It depends. I think there's certainly true of, if I knew I was going to be a high school teacher, I might not have gone to Center, but also Center College, I got a really good scholarship. Now, when I went to Center 20 years ago, it was $21,000. Now it's almost 50. However, nobody pays full price. There are some schools. My best friend from college is the #2 person at Elon University in North Carolina. We were talking the other day about what they're going through with COVID and everything else. 96% of their students pay above 75% tuition. At Center, I don't know anybody that pays above 75% tuition. Like, it's just, it says $50,000, but most people are going to pay less than half of that. So I think that's true in one regard. The other thing I would say about that, Jenna, is this: it depends on what you might want to go to graduate school for. If you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer, you're going to take out loans, but you're going to make good money more than likely, and you're going to pay them off. So if you want to get a PhD, pretty much any full-time PhD program, you're going to be a teaching assistant as part of that, which means they're going to cover your tuition. So never get a PhD unless somebody else pays for it. Like, that's just how it is. So it depends on what you're interested in. And I'm happy to have an individual discussion with you if you'd like. But if you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer, yeah, in med school, it's going to cost you $200,000. Yeah. But again, if in 5 years of graduating med school, you are making $300,000 a year, then that is an extremely wise investment. Okay, it just depends. And trust me, if you're a young medical school graduate, banks will fall over themselves giving you a loan because you're a good investment. You're going to pay back your money 99% of the time. So they will give you deals you probably don't deserve at that age on your loan. So I'm just telling you, there's lots of options. So here's my advice. Your neighbors gave good advice broadly. It depends on your specific situation. I would avoid hard and fast rules for most situations. Usually there's always some subtlety here. As I will show you the last thing I have, I'm giving you broad perspectives, but I'm just one person. I'm not always right. I think it's always good to ask and get more information, which I know, Jenna, you will. Um, but I think it depends on the context and the situation. Okay. All right. Anybody else before we talk about essays for a few minutes?
I was gonna say, how should I approach a college counselor or admissions person, especially now? Like, what should I email them, or if I
Yeah,
should?
well, I think it's important. Well, number one, most college websites, if you go on their admissions page, will have a way for you to find who your admissions counselor is. Often you'll enter a zip code because they divide the country geographically. So that would be your primary form of contact. College admissions counselors are probably, depending on what region they're in, if you're in the Northeast, they're probably doing some visits. If you are in, UCLA, are they sending their person out to the Midwest right now? Probably not, because California's restrictions are stronger currently than most Midwest states. So COVID is going to impact, but you can still Zoom with them. You can still Google Meet. Those are things that could happen. I don't know about you, but I mean, and I love teaching anyway, but I was super pumped even to get on Zoom last week because I miss this. I miss it. And I know when we get back together in person, I'm going to be super excited. And some people don't get that, but I miss this. So admissions counselors usually get into it for three reasons. They need a job and they're young and they don't know what to do. It's a good, like, I'm 23 to 25 to 26, 27 kind of job. And then all the bosses are 45 and 50. But most of your admissions counselors are 25-year-olds, 28-year-olds, because they graduated college and were like, don't know. And it's a good, like, because you travel a lot, that kind of thing. Usually it's because also they love an institution. But many times you often work for your own institution. So you're very passionate about, like the young woman I just mentioned at Western, she's a Western graduate. So she's not going to have a hard time selling Western because she loves it and had a great experience there. So that kind of reason is part of it. So if you contact them and say, look, I'm interested. When do y'all think you might allow in-person visits if that's not currently happening? I'm sure their admissions page will probably have a COVID update like everybody else right now. And then if that's not possible in the near future and you'd like some more information, then you may say, hey, can I set up a call? Is that something we could do? And it's just to kind of feel them out, ask them questions, talk about what opportunities there are. If you're asking for a meeting, you should have a purpose for the meeting. And trust me, they know it's awkward. If you tell me you're going to meet with an admissions counselor and you're not nervous, you're lying. So you might say something silly. You might have some awkward silence. That's going to happen.
Okay.
So don't be afraid of that. They're used to it. It's like weirdos don't bother me. Gee, I don't know. Number one, I am a weirdo. And number two, I've taught all AP classes for 16 years. No offense, guys, but come on. I mean, it is what it is. And oddly enough, usually the weird kids like me. I don't know why. Oh, wait, I know exactly why. Okay. Earlier today, I saw Coach Kenny, our AD, and he's got to fill out our paperwork. And he was asking, like, who runs a chess club? Who runs Quick Creek? Who runs? And he didn't know because he didn't deal with that. I said, Coach, I'll be your ambassador to all the nerds. So I told him, like, who does Science Olympiad? Because who does chess? Because he doesn't know any of that. And he's like, you can tell he's kind of nervous because he doesn't know who half the people are because he didn't talk to them. So I said, I will be your ambassador to the nerds. He's like, okay. So I wrote down who did all the stuff and gave it back to him. So you just need to make sure that if you reach out, be friendly, be patient. Don't be like, can I do it tomorrow? Give them some time. But then also have some questions ready and just make sure that they know you're interested. And maybe after that you go, I don't think so. But I think those are good options. So if you're going to take a campus tour, see if an in-person thing is possible. Right now it may not be. This may impact your decision. Some of you normally might try to decide in the fall. You may decide to push back to the spring so you get a chance to visit. That could, I don't know, it could be the case. This is a more uncertain process than ever before, obviously. All right, thank you, Eli. Anybody else? Question before we go into essay? Okay, again, I'm happy to stick on at the end and answer questions if I can. So essays, and I mean what I say here, most essays are bad. Like they are so bad. Some people think they're so creative and they're so innovative, and it's the same crap I've read before and before and before. If you came to any of my GSP meetings last year, you've heard this before, okay? It's not any different. Show who you are as a person. Don't tell me. Don't tell me you're a hard worker. Show me an example of hard work. Be descriptive. It's like if I watch a trailer for a movie and all the best scenes are in then why do I need to go see the movie? Now, sometimes there's other great scenes too, and it's fun, but sometimes it's, well, the best three things happened were in that trailer. I just wasted my money. So show me who you are as a person. Your entire application is your grades, your test scores, your activities, all that stuff. For an essay, I want to see the person. If you are going to try to apply to a higher level institution that is more selective, or if you're trying to get a scholarship anywhere, I don't just expect you're going to show up to my institution in a year and be a good student who gets good grades. That's a given. That's an expected. If I'm going to give you money to come to my institution, I'm expecting more. I'm expecting somebody I can use in an admissions video. I'm expecting in 2 years when I have like orientation days for incoming, you'll be one of my orientation leaders. I'm expecting more. So I know you got the chops up here because the rest of your paper says that. What I'm looking for in an essay, how do you fit? What do you bring? How are you going to make our institution better? When the board of trustees meets annually and I need a student to trot out there and can you be someone that might be able to do that someday? Do you have that kind of opportunity? So these are things to think about. We know you're smart enough. We know you want to be an engineer. The last essay you want to write is, here's why I want to be an engineer. We know you want to be an engineer because you're applying to engineering school. Like you're wasting your time. Let's be honest. Engineering. What is the stereotype about engineers?
They're nerds.
Yeah? Are they usually like outgoing?
No.
No. So if you're a wannabe engineer with a personality, you need to make sure they know you have a personality because somebody's got to give the student speech at the Georgia Tech Engineering Visit Day. And if you can do that, because 95% of kids applying to engineering school are going to talk about whatever nerd engineering thing they're interested in. And that's awesome. But I already know you got that. I see you got an A in physics and a 5 on the AP physics exam. I know this is good. I want to see about the rest of it. Show me who you are as a person, not just as a student. That's what that means. Does that make sense? Okay? A couple other things. Reveal something that is not in the rest of your application. If you applied to GSP, I told you that each section was separate, read by separate people. For college apps, that is usually not the case. One person's reading the whole thing. So don't say the same thing 3 times. Okay? Don't say the same thing 3 times. Grab my attention. I just told you that most college admissions counselors are under 30. Since they're young and recent college graduates, when do you think they're going to finish reading their giant stack of student applications that they have to give reports to their boss? Early?
Last minute.
Last minute. So it's, all right, ACL tear number 1, ACL number 2, ACL tear number 3, ACL tear number 5. I've read 57 ACL tears. I don't remember who you are. Stand out. Be different. How are they going to remember you? Okay? It doesn't have to be intellectual because you have that. It could be something about your personality, a weird hobby, a character trait, an experience you think is unusual. And so those of you who are the children of immigrant families, that's a huge part of your story. It is, especially in these times when some people, talk about immigration like it's a dirty concept. But if you write the stereotypical, my family came to this country for me and my siblings to have opportunities, or my grandparents came to my parents, 90% of immigrant kids, first and second generation, write that essay. And maybe at Ballard High School, you're unique. You're not. But let's assume you are. You're definitely not unique if you're applying for a scholarship at UK and that's the essay you write. Writing about your mission trip. No. I'm sure that was a lovely experience and it was beneficial to you and the people you served. Great. It is not unique. As it says, your mission trip, your broken foot, your love of music or sports, all those things are great. There's nothing wrong with any of that. But writing about it in a college essay makes you just another one in the pile. Mr. Rich, how do I figure out? Is that going to be easy? The hardest thing about applying to college, in my opinion, outside of figuring out where you might want to go, is writing a good essay that's unique. So if you're planning on applying November 1, you need to start brainstorming some ideas now, because probably your first 25 are going to suck. So like literally a list of, does your AP research? What are some things you're interested in? I know that seems super generic, but you can't start moving forward till you put your shoes on. Then you can start walking. So we kind of sort of got our shoes on with that little short idea. That's it. So you want to start brainstorming ideas. What's interesting, what's unique, what's something that makes you different from your friends. So maybe just your 5 best friends. What is something about you that the other 4 don't do or don't have? Then go from there. In your family, what makes you unique? All right? Try to think of it in those terms, and then we can broaden it and broaden it and broaden it. Okay? Essays usually don't make your application worse, as long as they're edited and you have some idea, but they can make it better. They can make you stand out. So the worst thing that happens is your essay doesn't hurt you, but we want it to help you. Okay? I say this in class all the time, letter E. You don't have to show me how smart you are. Some of y'all, when you come in as sophomores, and on occasion seniors that don't know me, try to come in and flex. Your intelligence doesn't impress me. I've told you all that, and I know some people, when I say that, sound arrogant, Well, I am arrogant half the time. It's true. You're smart, so am I. Whatever, let's move on. What impresses me is kids that like pay attention, follow the rules, do what they're supposed to when they're supposed to do it. Because I have way more smart kids than I have kids that do the second thing. So I want to know what you're going to contribute. So I want to see that personality. From my own experience, when I went to Center interviewing for the top scholarship for that year, there were 3 of us. And it was supposed to be 1 top and 2 secondary levels. So I knew the worst I was getting was the lower level, which is still pretty good. And of course, I don't know these 2 people. We start talking back and forth, quickly realize both of them have better ACT scores than me. Okay? All 3 of us are valedictorians. All 3 of us are involved in a million activities. So the only 3 things are that, what I learned about them in 10 minutes of nervous chatter is that both of them have higher test scores than me. Well, crap. The first kid goes in there, he's back there 20 minutes in his interview. The next young lady is back there about 20, 25. I'm back there an hour. Because even at 17, I knew what my greatest strength was. Okay? I can talk people out of or into pretty much anything. And so I knew I might not be the best candidate on paper, but I'll be the best candidate in person. And so I didn't get nervous when I found out they had better test scores than me. I was like, cool. Because I kind of assumed that anyway, because I certainly did not have a 36 or a 35 for that matter. Or, I'm not trying to do the number, but it wasn't that high. And one of them had a 36. I'm like, well, crap. But I also knew I talked to this dude for 10 minutes and I got more charisma in my pinky than he has in his whole body. So I went in there and went for it. And the 3 of us ended up splitting. They couldn't decide. So we all 3 got the same scholarship. All right? Because I knew the one thing I was good at better than the other 2. And I went for it. You have something you're really good at. What we got to do is, how do we show that in your application? And it might be, it doesn't happen until you get to campus, because maybe you're like me and you're a blah, 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 blah. But how do you showcase what's awesome about you? Because I know one thing, every single person on this group has something awesome about them. And some of you, I know you well enough, I can tell you. Or what is best often, if you come to me with like 3 ideas, I will go, no, yes. And some of you did that last year if you applied to GSP. I can't write it for you, but I'll be like, that's unique. I have seen thousands and thousands and thousands of essays. And you all know, I'm not going to be nice to you just to be nice to you. I'm going to be harsh on you because I want you to be successful. So I will be honest with you. If it's a crap idea, I will tell you. If you ask me to read a draft of your essay and it sucks, I will tell you, and then I'll tell you why. And that's hard to hear. But if you want honesty, ask me. Now, it doesn't mean I'm always right. Like I told Jenna earlier, I'm just one person with one set of experiences. But for the average high school teacher, I have way more experience with this than pretty much anybody else you're going to find because of what I do in the summer. And also when I was a senior at Center, I was a student body representative on the scholarship committee. So myself, the college president, and the dean of students and the dean of admission, and the faculty body rep, 5 people, we interviewed every scholarship applicant my senior year of college. Now, granted, that was 19 years ago. Things have changed. But I interviewed like 50 people, and I heard these 4 really smart, highly intelligent people tell me what they were looking for. And it was really invaluable advice for me on what makes people stand out. So I am happy to tell you, think that's great, work on it, or nope. Now the last part, humor's fine, but be careful. It may fall flat, it may not work, it may not be, people may just be having a hard time because of the pandemic and they're just not in the mood for it. I would discourage humor. Not my thing, all right? And I love telling jokes, but it's not what I would do in that instance. Now in person, if you're going for an interview, sure. But in an essay, I generally would, I don't see too many humorous essays work. Now, one thing that's not on here that I should have put on here, I'm going to add now. Tell your story in an interesting way. Grab my attention right away. It does say that in C. So if the best part of your story is the end, then start with the end. Because I'll be honest, if I read the first 3 paragraphs and they're boring, I may not finish the thing. I may not get to the cool ending. Grab my attention right away. Y'all all know this. If you get on Netflix and try a new show or a new movie, how long you giving it before you quit? 5 minutes? 3? How long before you start doing this? Not long. So you need to get my attention fast. Start strong. Be creative and interesting from the beginning. So it's okay to start your essay with the best thing you got. And then go back from there. Also follow the rules. If it says 500 words, don't make it 502. Follow the rules. Okay? All right. Any questions on an essay? Okay, Teacher X. This is hard because it's not you writing it, but you can help. Don't necessarily pick your favorite teacher. It needs to be a teacher that can know something about you. I've had kids before, lovely children, like them a lot, they're nice. For whatever reason, they like me, but we never talked about anything outside of your homework's due tomorrow. I'm like, Mr. Rich, will you write a rec? Sure, yeah, but I don't know anything about you outside of you sit in the 3rd seat in the 4th row. And you're a good student who, gets good grades in their test. We've never talked about anything outside of, when y'all come in, I'll talk about the game last night or this movie or that song or whatever. I do that stuff. I'll talk to the wall. And I realize I'm a little bit much for my introverts on occasion. I understand that. But if you like me, that's great. But that doesn't mean I'm the best person to write a rec for you. It's like there are teachers in this building that I really like, that are my friends, that I don't think are very good at their job. But I'm an adult. I can separate the personal and the professional. And the vice versa. There are people I think that are great teachers that I don't socialize with. They're not my friends. We don't get along for whatever reason. Or maybe we just don't even know each other. It's not that we don't get along. We just never socialize in the first place. That's called being an adult. It's okay. I'd much rather have the person that's a good teacher who may not be the most friendly or outgoing. And I know several of those at Ballard, and you probably do too. So it's not your favorite teacher, a teacher you like. It's a teacher that knows you. Maybe it's a class where you got a B in, but you worked your tail off and went to after school tutoring, and you had to sit there and the teacher, but you grew and you showed tenacity and you worked really, really hard. That teacher can probably write a better rec for you than the class you breezed in, did all the work, and it was easy. Okay? Plus, think strategically. You're applying to engineering school, you need 2 recs. Yeah, get your physics teacher or chem teacher or whatever. Get an English teacher too. A little different, because most engineering school kids are going to get 2 math teachers. That's a way to be a little different. Different is good. Okay, different is good. All right? I need specific examples to write about you. I am old. I am 41. I have taught over 2,000 children at Ballard High School. And I see people in the store all the time. 99% of the time, I remember faces. Some I remember names. Some I don't. Future reference has nothing to do with college application. If you see someone like me in the future and you don't think I remember you, say your name. Don't be awkward and be like, you probably don't remember me. That's weird. Walk up and say, hi, I'm Eli Resnick. I had you in here. Cool. Yeah, we can check. That's what you do. Because it makes everything less awkward. Just FYI. All right? Anyway, back to our main point. You need to help me with specific examples. If I had you in AP World, what do you remember? For most of my kids, it's their debates. Okay? For last year, I never do this stuff, but it was in the COVID. We were a month into it, and I was kind of, so I did one of those, like, it's Teacher Appreciation Week. Tell me about something you remember from me. And I included if I yelled at you, because I probably did at some point, tell me what I yelled at you about. And I got like 200 responses from some people, like from 30 to 19. And the funniest stuff was what I yelled at them about, because I was like, yeah, I'm sure I did that. I have no doubt that's something I did. And they're like, yeah, it was pretty stupid what I did, and you were pretty upheated. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. But we got over it and we moved on, and we laugh about it now. But it's one of those things that I remember those details if you help me remember. So what I need from you, or what any teacher needs from you, give me an anecdote in your resume if you're going to give me one. Type me a paragraph about something you remember from my class. Because what I'll probably do is copy and paste it. You're helping write your own rec. Because if you tell me, if I say, Jenna Welch is a hardworking young lady who, has overcome, she's very tenacious. Yeah, but I need an example of that. Like, and no offense, I probably don't remember your debate. I have kids all the time. You remember my debate, Mr. Rich? You know how many debates I've participated in and seen in my life? I'm guessing 15,000. Unless you pooped yourself or passed out, no, I probably don't remember your debate off the top of my head. Now, if you give me a story, I might go, oh yeah, that was you. Oh, really? A couple of years ago, one of my seniors, when she wrote me a note when she graduated, was like, yeah, my debate was really bad. We weren't prepared. You told us all we'd have been smarter if we'd all stayed at home that day, because the debate I did made everybody dumber. It's like, yeah. She said, I was bad at you, but I got over it, and you were right, and I never was that lazy again. It's like, cool. So, and when she said that, I went, oh yeah, I have no doubt that's something I would say, because I'm honest. But what I talked about was how she grew and how she, was committed to her excellence and working hard and all those kind of things. So give your teachers a little story about their class, something that's memorable, so that they can write about it. That's what's going to help you. Because if there's no specific details, it's not going to help you. 2019 Governor Scholar, so kids that just graduated high school that are in college as first years right now, I read 180 applications. 170 of their teacher recs were dog crap, straight up trash that would do nothing to help them at all. And these are kids with 36s. These are kids with 4.0. These are kids with 5 pages of activities, service at the wazoo. And their teacher recs aren't going to hurt them, but a good teacher rec can help separate you a little bit more. So you need to find 2 people, preferably, that can write about that for you. And if 2 people like that don't exist at Ballard, your job in the next 3-4 months is to make that relationship happen. If you want to sit down and talk about stuff, all you got to do is ask. If you want to do it now, tell me. I'll Zoom with you one afternoon and we can chat about this stuff, and we'll go back and forth, and we'll help figure this stuff out. Yeah, I will do that for you, and most teachers will. Because if I'm going to take the time to write a rec, I want it to be good. If I say yes, I care about you and I want you to be successful. I have told one child no in 16 years because he was a bad student, he was lazy, and he wanted to go to center. And I was like, I am not putting that trash in my school. And I straight up said no. I will never dog you and say yes. If I'm not going to write a good one for you, I would tell you. And I've told a couple kids, like, you don't want me to write. Oh, really? Yeah. You weren't a good student for me. You had a bad attitude. You weren't very thorough in your stuff. So think about who those people might be for you. Okay? So I gave some specific examples in that B part. You want that. Weeks in advance, say thank you. Most of you will need a second or a third rec. Scholarship, whatever. First school didn't work out, you want one to the second school. Common App is fine, but sometimes they want specifics. Or sometimes you need me to be a secondary letter. Fine, I don't care. I save every recommendation I've ever written. I have them all digitally, have them all in the cloud. So it's not hard for me to go in and change, Adam's rec from the last time to what he needs for this one, if there's a difference. But if Adam doesn't at least even say thank you to me, I'm not going to do that. I don't expect a medal for doing my job. And part of my job as a senior AP teacher at one of the best high schools in Kentucky, I deal with great kids all day long. Part of my responsibility is to write you recommendations if you want it. I believe that. People help me. It's my job to pay it forward and help you. And almost every teacher in this building feels the same way, as long as you're respectful of our time and giving us notice and all that kind of stuff. So my point is this. Say thank you. Mr. Rich, I saw in Common App that your recommendation is in. Thank you for doing that. You're welcome. All I need. Written thank you note? Even better. The written thank you note is great. Vistaprint.com, V-I-S-T-A, print. You can get personalized stationery, 100 note cards with envelopes, your name on them, 10, 12 bucks. And then for the next 5 years of your life, when somebody does anything remotely nice for you, you write them a note, you drop it in the mail, boom. And they're nice looking. All right? I've done that since I was 15 years old because my parents made me. I didn't like it at the time, but it has helped make me a more thankful person. And yes, you should thank people because it's the right thing to do. But let's be honest, thanking people is not common anymore. Handwritten notes are not common anymore. When you do it, you stand out. And you always want to stand out for good. I have had kids give me gifts. That's sweet. I don't need it. I don't expect it. I'll take it, but I do not expect it. So it is not an expectation. I will not write you a better recommendation if you give me a gift versus you don't. I promise. Okay, I didn't get into teaching to get rich. Unfortunately, I was right. So that's fine. But that's my expectation. If you don't say thank you, gosh, I'm really busy this week. I don't think I can do it. How hard is it to say thank you for 3 seconds? That's it. So be thankful, say it, write it. You'll get a lot more out of the experience for doing so. Because in most situations, if you need a second rec, it's usually for a different reason and you need me to change some of it. Mr. Rich, this one is about leadership. I need you to, I don't know what you wrote in the first one, but can you talk more about my leadership experience and we can have that discussion. The last thing I'm going to say about recommendations, and then I'll see if you have any questions. It is key that you and a teacher have a conversation. Some teachers say, just give me a resume. If that's all they want, because you know what they're going to do? Copy your resume. Is that going to help you with a recommendation? Because you know where I have your resume? The rest of your application. Seeing your resume again is not going to help you. She's on the student council and on the golf team. I know that because you put that in your extracurriculars. Saying it twice doesn't make it cooler. I want stories. I want personality. I want who you are. And sometimes I'll tell you, we're good, I got it, because I already have it. And sometimes I may say, can you help me out here? So here are questions I ask kids if they want to rec. So if you want to rec from me, we're going to have this conversation. What is the strength of your application? What makes you stand out? Because I should probably also support that idea in my rec. What do you think is that thing about you? Like, I hope my high school teachers like Brian is a very dynamic leader who can interact with people and is able to talk to people of all different groups and different cliques in high school, because that was who I was then. That's who I am now. I can talk to anybody, and I believe that. If somebody needs convincing, you send me. In college, when it was time to get guys in our fraternity, there was a guy deciding between us and another group. I was the closer. I went in and sealed the deal. I'm going to make you believe. So that's my strength. And I have a lot of weaknesses, but that's my strength. Okay? What's yours? And it may change as you grow up, but you know you're good at something right now. How do we make sure that comes out? Okay. And sometimes it's different. All of you may remember your freshman year, Mary Glenn Oliver died by suicide. I had every one of her best friends in class the next year, all of them. And some of them had some rough years, as you can imagine. What I started to do with all those kids was say, look, do you want that brought up in your application? And many of them did not want to write about it in their essay because they don't want to seem like they're capitalizing on it or using a horrible situation to benefit. And it's super awkward. I get it. Some of them, it was too emotional still to talk about. And every single one of them said, and I just started asking because I realized pretty quickly this is what they needed. They were like, can you reference it somehow in a way that, I said, yeah. So every letter I wrote for like those 20 kids, because you can imagine we were pretty close that year. And I'm happy to be close with my kids. I hope I'm never that close again because obvious reasons. I wrote every single one of those kids about how Mary Glenn death affected them, because that's something I could do that made it a lot easier on them. So if there is a difficult family situation, if there are other problems that there's really no good place to put it, but it's part of who you are and it's something you think is important for people to know and you're not quite ready to talk about it yourself, a teacher or a counselor rec can be where it comes out. If you feel comfortable. And I'm never going to pry, but if a kid tells me, Mr. Rich, here's what's up, and sometimes I already know, I don't know how I'll work this in my application. And sometimes I'll tell a kid, like, do you mind if I do it? Because I will. Again, if I write a rec, I'm on your team. I'm happy to help you. But let me close with this metaphor, and then I want to talk about this survey, and then we'll see if you have questions, and we'll call it a day. You're making a meal with this application. And a meal is not just a main dish. It's side dishes, it's drinks, it's place settings, is there music playing in the house when you invite your friends come over to eat? It's the whole vibe. Are we going to play games after? Or do you have a pool and we're going to go sit by? Like, what's the plan? And if you are hosting a dinner party, an adult kind of thing here, and you ask all your guests to bring a side dish, yes, absolutely. We're going to cook the entree, y'all bring side dishes. My first questions are, how many people are coming to dinner? What's the entree? My side dish needs to support your entree. I'm not going to break a bag of Doritos if you're cooking a nice piece of fish. Okay? That doesn't make any sense. So my part in this is side dish. I can't know what to bring unless I know what the entree is. So that's why you and I need to talk. And you need to tell me. And if a teacher's like, no, I got it. No offense to my peers, everybody's busy, especially right now. I'd be weary of having them write a rec for you because they're going to copy your resume. And that ain't good. And I don't blame teachers. We are never taught how to do this. The only reason I have learned is because I've had the fortunate pleasure of teaching thousands of awesome kids. And I've had the fortunate pleasure of reading the applications of thousands of kids from all over the state who are also awesome, who got into a highly selective program in spite of their god-awful teacher recs. So I have seen comparatively what other people do, and it's changed how I write recs. Before 2 years ago, I never asked kids to tell me stories. I mean, I would do it sometimes, but it would be my own recollection. Now I say, if you're going to give me a resume, type up a paragraph or two about what you remember about my class and what you did. And sometimes it's copy paste because you said it better than I could. Okay? I'm a side dish. I need to know what I need to work on. Also, I'm going to ask, what is your weakness about your application? What ain't good? Your ACT score is not high enough. That was mine for what I was going for. I don't have leadership opportunities. I don't have a large variety of extracurriculars. I have to work to help support my family, blah, blah, blah. We can address that stuff. I'm happy to go in and try to make you look better. I'm not going to lie for you. But if you're like, I'm not a leader, I'm not the president of anything, I'm not the captain of anything, I've never been an assistant manager at work, I can talk about when you've led in my classroom, when you moderated a fishbowl, when you were the attorney in a trial we had in class, that kind of stuff. I can do that, and that's leadership. It doesn't have to be an official title. But that's why you and I need to work together on this. Okay? So this is not a 5-minute, here's my resume, thanks. Now, if you're just going to UK and money doesn't matter, and I don't say just UK is a great institution. I'm not disparaging UK. But y'all know most, if not all of you, can get into UK. then it doesn't matter. If money is no object and scholarship doesn't matter anything and grandma's going to pay for it, then I guess why bother? But if you're trying to get into a top higher place, it's more selective, you're trying to get scholarships, Teacher X can be a difference maker for you, positively. But help us. We are old, we are tired, we are trying to learn different softwares that we don't know how to use. Help us help you. I have got to the point in my life where if you tell me what you want me to write, that doesn't bother me. You and I both know if you try to do that to some of your teachers, they're going to resist you. And you can probably think of some names in this building. So don't do it overtly, do it subtly. Just don't talk about it. Just here's the story, put it in your resume. There you go. Put it at the top of the first page under your name. What I remember most about Miss Pointer's class or Miss Jones's class or Miss Livesay's class or Mr. Crocker's class or, Mr. Oster's class or whatever is this, and just say it there. And it's going to influence what they write, and at best, they might just straight up copy and paste it. Okay? Now, I am not going to talk about interviews yet. That comes later for some of you, and some of you will never have to have one. When we get to interview season, if you want to practice, I will run you through a practice interview. All you got to do is ask. Hopefully by then we're back in person. Come in my room one day after school. I'll run you through 20 minutes of stuff because interviews are nerve-wracking. And I have been a part of hundreds and hundreds of interviews. I'm on the interview committee at Ballard. I interview people every year for GSP. I interview kids for scholarships. It's something I'm used to from both sides. So I will help you with that if you want it. If you don't want it, that's fine. But practice helps you. All right, lastly, the NCAC and the NACAC survey. This is the National Association of College and Admissions Counselors. I just updated this yesterday. According to their survey from 2018-19, which is the most recent data we have, they don't have 19-20 out yet. These are the factors. Now, this is nationally. Every institution's different, but they were asked to rank like 20 different factors of a college admissions application. And they came up with these in terms of, and what it is it was like really important, somewhat not important, and not important at all. How I rank these are the highest percentages of really important. Okay, so grades in all courses, grades in college prep courses, aka AP. So grades. If you're applying this fall, the GPA you have is already done. You're applying with the end of your junior year. If you're applying in the spring, you can include your fall semester grades for this semester, which is why I always harp on my sophomores. Those grades have got to go up. If you had a bad freshman year, you don't have time to waste, because you basically have 6 semesters to apply to college of grades. And if 2 of them are bad, those 4 better be really good. So hopefully you're not in that situation. If it is, you may want to wait to apply till spring to give you another semester to bump those grades up. Okay? Challenging schedule. There are kids in this building I love dearly that were wonderful AP students as sophomores who are taking 1 or 0 AP classes as a senior. There are some students, I'm the only AP class they have. And that's fine. But if you're like, I'm going to get a scholarship, and if it's not athletic, you're dreaming. Because the people you're competing with are taking 3, 4, 5 AP classes. Now, you may find the right admissions counselor at the right institution at the right place who doesn't care. But as you can see, according to the national average, it is the 3rd most important thing in your application. And some of y'all are taking 5 APs. I know that. So you're fully loaded. I'm not saying 5 is a magic number. 3 is good. 4 is good. 1, please. You took 3 as a junior and 1 as a senior. You know what that shows me? Lazy. But I'm not like, I told y'all before, if you had me as a sophomore, I will never stab you in the back, I'll tell you. I will tell you what everybody says about you behind your back to your face. And if you went from 3 or 4 APs to 1, lazy. Now, there could be a reason. Your grandma got sick, you had to help take care of her. Then you better write your essay about that, so we know. Or get your teacher to write about it, or a counselor in your recommendation. If you go from 3 to 1, lazy, lazy, lazy. Okay? Test scores, which for this year, many are not required. For admission, but for most institutions, they're still required for scholarships. And this is not official yet, but I'll tell you some top secret news, because as you may know, I'm the one who does the ACT in this building. I have to apply for it, but JCPS said as of today, we can host ACT in October. which is also exciting for potentially getting back to school soon as well. Okay? So we will have an ACT in this building, potentially multiple, because they're looking at maybe having multiple weekends in a row of an ACT, because we're not going to be able to get all the kids that want to at one time because of COVID restrictions of numbers of people and whatnot. So you will hear in the next couple of weeks, if you need an ACT score, Ballard will host in October. So if you need a boost, it's happening. Okay, assuming I can fill out paperwork correctly. But that's the plan. And hopefully it'll be official in 2-3 weeks. Essay, students demonstrated, is it free? ACT, I don't know, it depends on your situation. You get X amount of free ones through the state. I don't know how many you're on. I think it's 3 or 4. But no, it's like a normal ACT, you have to pay for it unless you have a certain exemption. So, students demonstrated interest. Do you visit? Do you know an admissions counselor? Or do I just randomly get your application in the mail like everybody else's before the deadline? And I've never heard of you. If you show me you want, everybody wants to be wanted. Everybody wants to be told they're pretty. Right? You can be like the hardcore, like, appearance doesn't matter, it shouldn't judge me. And I agree with that. But if somebody tells you look nice, and it's not like weird and creepy, like it's someone, your parents or something, you're like, hey, you look nice today. And you're like, yes, I do. Right? We all do. This is basically you showing the institution that you think they're cool. Like, I'm really into Murray State or Vanderbilt or IU, whatever it is. You going and visiting, you having a relationship with an admissions counselor, that's going to really help you. Okay? Recommendations, class rank, extracurriculars, look how low it is. Not saying it's not important, but it's not as important as the academic stuff. AP scores, look how low they are. I'm surprised. Much higher to take the hard schedule than it is to get the score. Now, the scores, of course, save money and let you get more credits. But in terms of application, not as important. And then an interview. If you get to an interview stage, we want you. It's, do we give you scholarship A or scholarship B usually? Unless you're like an Ivy when it's admission. But if you get an interview at UK, you're in easy. This is, do we give you the Singletary or the next one? Okay? So that's my thing. Here's the thing. Harrison is not on this call, is he?
No.
Okay, good. Harrison, Caleb, will you text him? Because I was supposed to meet him at 4:15 to give him his book. It's 4:15. I'm going to run and do that. I'm in my classroom. I will be back in 3 minutes, and I will take questions. But that's what I got.
You just want me to say that you're running down there right now?
Yeah. So I'm going to go run this book to Harrison because I